half-light to wait while you decided. I made excuses for your absence so I wouldn't feel divided. You said just give me time now, like time was something kind. But every minute with you left me further behind. I lowered my expectations so you could stay. I was always second to your fear, to your past, to the life you were holding that you never let me have. I was always second to your doubts, your pride. I gave you all of me. You gave me what was left inside. I memorized your distance, learned the weight of maybe. You pulled me close when it was lonely, then pushed me off when it got heavy. I stayed quiet in the corners where your promises would fade. I kept loving you out loud while you loved me halfway. I called it patience, you called it enough. I was always second, never first in your plans. I fit between your excuses, like I'd always understand. I was always second, but I loved you like I wasn't. I gave you my heart, you just held it for a moment. Some hearts are taught to wait, some are born to choose. I waited for you to see me, you were afraid to lose. I don't need to be your everything, I just needed to be yours. I was always second, but I stayed like I was first. I kept believing love was gentle, even when it hurt. I was always second, now I'm learning how to stand, not begging to be chosen by someone who never cared. I was always second, now I choose myself. I loved you in the chaos, in the spaces we didn't speak. I stayed through all the warning signs. I told my heart to beat. I believed in every version of the man you said you'd be. I held on to all your promises while losing parts of me. I told myself love is patience, that it forgives and it stays. I didn't know that loving you would cost me in this way. I loved you despite everything, the silence, the doubts, the pain. I stood in the rain of you leaving, still calling out your name. I gave you all my faith, even when it broke me in two. the disappearing acts, called them just a hard time. I learned how to carry a distance like it was mine to own. I made a home and half a heart and called the loneliness love. I thought if I stayed longer, you'd finally choose to fight. But some hearts only take the love and never choose it back. I loved you despite everything, the lies you never denied. I held on to every almost while you watched me slowly slide. I gave you all my softness, every truth I couldn't hide. I loved you despite everything, even after love had died. Maybe love shouldn't beg, maybe hope shouldn't bleed. I stayed chasing your potential while losing all of me. I wanna face the acting if you've been honest from the start. But I loved you despite everything and paid with my heart. I loved you despite everything, but I'm learning how to let go. I'll grieve the love I imagine more than the one I know. I won't regret believing with a heart that tried its best. I loved you despite everything. Now I choose what's left. I loved you despite everything. Now I love me again. The radio still knows your name. Every note sounds like your voice. I hear you in the quiet spaces, like I never had a choice. Every melody we share still lingers when I'm alone. I press play just to feel you, then I turn it off back home. I try to change the station, but my heart won't move along. I loved you in every song, in every word unsaid, in the chorus I kept repeating, in the tears I never shed. I loved you in every song, every harmony I knew. Even when the music faded, it still sounded mornings, like shoes by the door, like knowing where I was going without asking for more. Your arms were my shelter, your voice calmed the storm. I didn't know love could feel so steady, so warm. I thought safety meant forever. I thought comfort couldn't leave. I loved you like home, like somewhere I belong, like walls that would hold me when everything was wrong. I loved you like home, and I built you in my chest. You walked out so easily and left me homeless in my head. I left pieces of myself in every room of you, every laugh, every promise. I believe was true. You started packing your distance long before goodbye. I stayed making excuses for the tears in your eyes. You stopped needing the door. I kept leaving the light on. I loved you like home, like a place I could rest. You loved me like a moment you could forget. I loved you like home. You loved me when it was easy. Now every song, every silence still feels like you're leaving. When if love is meant to feel safe, why does it hurt this much to lose? A house doesn't warn you when it's about to move. I stayed loyal to the feeling. You moved on from the space. I loved you like home, not a stop on the way. I thought we were forever. You thought maybe someday. I loved you like home, and I don't know where to go when the place I ran to breathe is the place I lost the most. I'll rebuild my heart slowly, but it still remembers you. every breath I could afford. I built my days around your name, like it was something sacred, something sure. I learned your silences by heart, knew the weight behind your smile. I didn't know I was disappearing, just to keep you for a while. I thought losing myself was just part of loving you. I loved you more than life, more than peace, more than sleep. I gave you all the parts of me I promised I would keep. I loved you more than life, and now I'm paying the price. You walked away with everything. I loved you more than life. I chose you over my reflection, over the girl I used to be. I called it sacrifice, you called it loving me. You never asked for all of me, but I gave it anyway. I thought love meant no limits, even if I slowly faded away. You learned how to survive, I forgot how to live. I loved you more than life, more than truth, more than time. I held your heart so carefully while you let go of mine. I loved you more than life. You loved me when it was right. Now I'm left to rebuild myself from loving you more than life. If love shouldn't cost your soul, why does it ask for mine? I would have died for us, but you wouldn't even try. I don't regret loving deeply, I regret forgetting me. I loved you more than life, but I won't lose it again. I learned to love myself first before I let love in. You were my whole horizon, now I'm finding my light. I survived the fall from loving you more than life. I'm still here, learning how to breathe again. Last words fell between us, like dust on an empty room. You turn away so quietly, I didn't know it was the end of you. I stayed where your shadow lingered, tried to memorize the sound of your footsteps leaving slowly, while my heart stayed on the ground. You said goodbye with your eyes before your lips ever tried. I loved you past the end, past the silence, past the truth. When there was nothing left to fight for, I was still holding you. I loved you past the end, when you were already gone. You closed the door on us, but my heart kept knocking on. Packed away the future that we never died to use, folded all my promises, still smelling just like you. I told myself I'd let you go, like love just knows when to stop. But my heart doesn't understand when enough is all we've got. You moved on so easily, I stayed with the memory. I loved you past the end, past the tears I tried to hide. When you were learning how to forget, I was learning how to survive. I loved you past the end, past reason, past control. You found your way to freedom, I stayed behind with the ghost. If love had a finish line, I crossed it alone. I kept running toward you, even after you were gone. I didn't lose you suddenly, I lost you slow. I loved you past the end, past the last thing you said. I kept your name in my prayers and your silence in my head. I loved you past the end, but I'm learning how to mend. Some loves don't end when hearts break, they end when we do. I loved you kisses between breaths. I gave you all my secrets, I held nothing back. I saw the cracks you carried, still I stayed, still I tried. I believed in every promise, even when truth would hide. I thought love meant forever if I gave you all of me. I didn't know that loving could drown so silently. I loved you too deep, deeper than you ever knew. I stayed when I was breaking, just to be close to you. I gave you every heartbeat, every tear I couldn't keep. You touched the surface of my heart, but I love you too deep. I bent myself in pieces so you wouldn't feel the weight. I waited through your distance, I called patience faith. I carried all your silence like it was mine to hold. I loved you past the warning signs, past the truths you never told. I thought if I stayed longer, you'd finally choose to stay. I didn't know that loving you meant losing me this way. I loved you too deep, too honest, too much, too true. I fought for every moment while you already withdrew. I gave you all my softness, every part you couldn't keep. You loved me when it was easy, but I loved you too deep. Maybe I should have guarded what I gave so freely. Maybe love isn't supposed to hurt this endlessly. I would have faced the ending if you had let me see, but you left me in the middle of who I was meant to be. I loved you too deep, but I'm learning how to breathe. I'll gather all my broken parts and bring them back to me. I won't apologize for loving with a heart that didn't sleep. You may never know my pain, but I loved you too deep. I loved you too deep. Now I'm learning how to heal. I let you see the cracks in me I never showed before. I gave you all the quiet truths I was hiding from the world. I didn't wear my armor, I laid it on the floor. I thought love meant you'd stay with me, not aim for something more. I trusted every promise, every word you said. I never thought I'd be the one you'd leave for I stayed when doubts were screaming. I silenced every fear. I blamed myself for distance when you disappeared. I called it understanding, I called it being kind. But love shouldn't feel like you're losing yourself in someone's mind. I thought patience was devotion, I thought pain was proof. But love should never cost you the truth. I loved you without defense, I stood with open hands. You held my heart like it was safe, then let it fall again. You left without a warning, no reason, no second glance. I loved you without defense. If I could go back, I'd still choose the same. I'd still love you deeply, even knowing the pain. But I'd whisper to my younger heart before the fall began. Love shouldn't feel like war when you're unarmed. I loved you without defense, but I'm learning how to heal. I'm picking up the pieces now you never tried to feel. I won't apologize for loving how I can. I loved you without defense, now I understand. I loved you without defense, but I survived the end. I stayed when the nights got heavy, when your words stopped sounding true. I held on to every promise, even when they came undone. I believed in what we could be, more than what we were. I love the future you painted, even when the colors blur. I told myself love is patient, that hope would lead the way. I didn't know that dreaming could slowly break a heart this way. I stayed for the dream, for the life we almost had. I held on to tomorrow while losing all I am. You lived in the moment, I lived in what could be. I stayed for the dream, and it cost the real me. I waited through your silence, called distance growing pains. I learned how to excuse the hurt so you wouldn't feel the blame. I fought for every maybe, every half-spoken plan. I stayed in the shadow of us, trying to help you understand. I thought if I believed enough, while you stopped letting me in. You slept through the warnings, I heard them calling me. I stayed for the dream and lost my reality. Maybe love shouldn't beg, maybe hope shouldn't bleed. I'll stay chasing forever while you ran from me. I would've faced the ending if I'd known what it would mean. But I stayed for the dream and woke up incomplete. I stayed for the dream, but now I'm letting it go. I'll grieve the life I imagined more than the love I know. I won't regret believing in something I could see. I stayed for the dream. Now I choose me. I stayed for the dream. Now I wake up free. You don't look at me the same now, but I remember when you did. When your hands felt like a promise and your silence didn't hurt like this. We used to talk about forever like it was already ours. Now we talk around each other like strangers in the dark. I saw the cracks before the break, but I stayed anyway. I stayed for what we were, not for what we became. I stayed for the echoes of love saying my name. When you were already leaving, I was holding on to us. I stayed for what we were when it was no longer enough. You stopped trying to save us long before I let you go. I kept hoping love would wake up if I loved you a little more. I memorized your old laughter, played it back when you were cold. You were living in the present, I was trapped in what we'd known. You changed without a sound, I stayed where we were found. I stayed for what we were, for the way you said my name. It was one I made with home. I stayed for what we were, for the dream we used to hold, when your heart was still beside me and mine didn't feel this cold. I stayed when love was fading, I stayed when truth was blurred. I stayed for what we were and lost myself in what I heard. You stayed for who you are now. I stayed for who we were. I saw the signs, I felt the change, but I told myself it then. I made excuses for the silence, called it patience in the end. I watched the light go out and you still held your hand somehow. I knew the love was leaving, but I didn't know how. I kept hoping you'd come back to me, even when you were already gone. I stayed too long again when I should've let you go. I gave my heart another chance you didn't even know. I loved you past the warning signs, ignored the pain I felt. I stayed too long again and lost myself. I learned your moods, your distance, your way of pulling away. I learned to live in maybes while you lived day to day. I carried all the weight for us, so you wouldn't feel the strain. I held us up with breaking arms and called it love, not pain. I thought staying meant I cared enough, but love shouldn't feel like giving up. stopped meeting my eyes, started leaving space between. Your touch felt more like habit than the love it used to mean. I felt you drifting quietly long before you said a word. Every silence grew heavier, but I pretended I hadn't heard. I told myself love bends sometimes. I didn't know it breaks this way. I stayed when you pulled away, when your heart was halfway gone. I kept fighting for forever. You were already moving on. I stayed through the distance, through the nights I cried alone. I stayed when you pulled away and paid the price of holding on. You said you needed breathing room. I gave you all of mine. I learned how to love in silence, just to keep you by my side. I blame myself for everything, for the cold in your embrace. I kept shrinking to fit the space where love had lost its place. You called it needing time, I called it losing you. I stayed when you pulled away, through the doubt, through the pain. You were choosing distance, I was choosing us again. I held on to every memory like it might change your mind. I stayed when you pulled away and left my strength behind. If love means meeting halfway, why was I the only one trying? I would've let you go sooner if you hadn't stayed silent. I wasn't weak for loving you, I was brave for staying true. I stayed when you pulled away, but I won't stay anymore. I've learned that loving alone is a love I'm meant for. I'll take back every piece of me I gave to keep you close. I stayed when you pulled away, and now I'm choosing to let go. I loved you honestly, even when it hurt. You stopped reaching for my hand before I knew to let go. I kept feeling all the quiet so I wouldn't feel the cold. Your words grew careful, lighter, like they didn't want to stay. I felt the distance growing, but I begged it to fade. kept telling myself love just goes through phases. I was holding on alone while you were slipping away. I was fighting for tomorrow. You were done with yesterday. I kept loving in the dark, trying to make us whole. I was holding on to everything you'd already let go. I read between your silences, tried to fix what you wouldn't say. I learned how to smile through tears so you wouldn't feel the weight. You leaned on me for comfort, but never pulled me close. I was carrying the heartache you never noticed most. You stayed without the fire, I stayed without the truth. I was holding on alone, counting cracks in our goodbye. You were learning how to leave me, I was learning how to try. I kept believing in the love we used to know. I was holding on to us you were already letting go. If love is meant to be shared, why did it feel so one-sided? I was building something real, you were quietly deciding. I would have let you go sooner if you'd just been honest with me. I was holding on alone through the truth I couldn't face. I held on to what we were while you erased our place. I'm learning how to breathe again now that I finally know I wasn't weak for loving you. I was strong holding on alone. Of you tonight and hold myself instead. I held on to your shadow like it was still you. I replayed every moment, trying to feel what we knew. I thought time would be kinder, I thought love would stay close. But every step away from you felt like something I lost. They say healing comes with distance, that letting go brings peace. But my heart still speaks your name like you never left me. I wasn't ready to let go when you already had. I was still holding on to us while you were looking back. I gave you all my tomorrow before today. if I'd known when to start. But I wasn't ready to let go of your heart. I wasn't ready to let go, but now all the love we had, I'll carry all the love we had without breaking down. I won't regret the way I loved or the truth I showed. I wasn't ready to let go, but I'm stronger now. I wasn't ready to let go, but I will somehow. You held my hand while I was breaking, said I'm not going anywhere. You traced the cracks I tried to hide, like you were teaching me to care. I started breathing easier with your voice inside my chest. I thought love was the medicine, I didn't know it was a test. You stayed just long enough to make me feel okay. You left me halfway healed with your name still in my veins. I learned to trust again, then you walked away. You left me halfway healed, not broken, not whole, just strong enough to miss you, but too weak to let you go. You kissed the scars I never showed, promised they were safe with you. I stopped flinching at the dark, because your light was coming through. But love doesn't disappear once it fades in quiet ways. You pulled away in inches while I begged you to promise. Every word you softly said, I trusted all your silence, like it never meant regret. I opened all my windows, let your light into my room. I didn't know the dark could follow, even love could bloom with gloom. I told myself this is what love feels like, a little pain, a little doubt. But I didn't know love could leave me empty when you walked out. You made me question love, what it's supposed to be, if it's meant to feel this lonely even when you're next to me. I gave you all my faith, you gave me uncertainty. You made me question love and what it did to me. I stayed through all the confusion, called your distance space. I learned to lower expectations just to keep your face. I forgave the disappearing past, the nights you chose not to stay. I told my heart to be patient while it quietly broke away. I thought love meant enduring, holding on no matter what. But love shouldn't leave you doubting every time it's touched. You made me question love, if it's meant to hurt this deep, if it steals your sense of safety and your right to sleep. I gave you all my softness, you handed me debris. You made me question love and who it made of me. Maybe love isn't confusion, maybe it doesn't make you small. Maybe love doesn't disappear and leave you blaming it all. I would have fought for forever if forever felt like home. But you made me question love, and I've never felt so alone. You made me question love, but I'm learning what it's not. It's not fear, it's not waiting for someone to decide your worth. I won't lose my believing just because we fell apart. You made me question love, but not the strength of my heart. You You said my name like a promise, like it was safe in your mouth. Every always felt honest, every future felt alive. I built a life in your sentences, I trusted every word you gave. I didn't know I was dreaming while you were just passing through my days. I thought we were growing together, you were just staying a while. You never meant forever, you just liked how it felt to be loved without questions, to be somebody else. I held on through the seasons, you let go whenever. I gave you my whole heart. You never meant forever. You avoided all the hard talks, said let's just see where this goes. I mistook your hesitation for love, learning how to grow. I memorized your patterns, ignored the space in your eyes. You were already half gone, I was still trying to try. I planned years in advance, you planned an easy escape. You never meant forever, I see it clearly now. You stayed while it was simple, you left when it got loud. I fought for something real, you ran from the pressure. I stayed believing in us. You never meant forever. If love is meant to last, it shouldn't feel like guessing. I was building something solid, you were never investing. I wasn't asking for forever, I was asking for the truth. You never meant forever, but I meant every part, every quiet sacrifice, every piece of my heart. I'll stop loving your potential and start loving me better. I believed in us. You never meant forever. I'll find someone who stays when they say forever. I trusted you with quiet things I never said out loud. I gave you all my fragile dreams and watched you walk them out. I thought love meant staying close, not leaving me halfway. You held my heart like it was yours, then turned and ran away. I didn't see the ending, I believed every word. You promised me forever, then disappeared unheard. You took my heart and ran like it was never yours to keep. never came back home. I searched your silence for a sign that I wasn't alone. I told myself you'd turn around, that love would slow your pace. But every mile you ran from me felt written on my face. I held on to the hope that you were just afraid, but fear doesn't explain the love you threw away. You took my heart and ran before I could defend. You left me with the aftermath of how we almost were. I gave you every reason to stay and understand, but you took my heart and ran. Maybe I was too open, maybe I loved too fast. I built a home inside your arms that couldn't last. I would have followed you anywhere if you had just asked, but you took my heart and ran. You took my heart and ran, but I'm still standing here, learning how to breathe again through every silent tear. I won't chase what never stayed or beg to be your plan. You took my heart and ran. Now I understand. I'll gather all the pieces you couldn't hold in your hand. You took my heart and ran, but I'm learning how to stand. You knew where I was fragile, still you stepped right in. I showed you every open place I didn't know to defend. You held